Now, Kaitlin, you're doing a lot of stuff out there to help a lot of people with Mind Valley collaborations, your course. But I want to ask, like, what else are you excited about or looking to get into as you continue to become the Taylor Swift of personal development?
Oh, thank you. Well, right now I'm working on a book, which I'm really
Okay.
excited about. It's actually like it went from one to two, and the first is just really about my story, my brother, everything that what happened, and the goal is just to inspire hope in people. It's like I I always asked that I could be of service. Um, for whatever reason, that's always been an innate feeling in me is like, how can I be of service? How can I help others? What can I do? And I think actually every human being has that fundamentally inside of them. But it took me going through, I could never look at somebody and say, oh, I'm really sorry you feel suicidal, because I didn't know how that felt. I can now look at people and say, I know what it feels like to, be told you're going to die. I know what it feels like to have your mind completely hijacked. I know what it feels like to have terrible thoughts. And I also know what it feels like to get out of all of that
Mhm.
and to learn that there's more. And so that's the goal of that book. And then the second one I'm like simultaneously working on is, you kind of mentioned it. You said it's a lot of pressure. And so this idea that it's like, okay, if I am creating reality more than I know, right? And I'm this director, right? We hear these terms like I'm the director, I'm the lead character, I'm all of this. That's over, like, what? All of that's on me, right?
Yeah.
This is a solo player game.
Yeah.
That is stressful, but how do we actually give people simple tools to really understand that, like, yeah, you are creating. And once you understand that the things that you dislike in your life you've created, it's okay. You're powerful and you can create anything that it is you wish to experience. And so I'm really excited about this, and just about putting this story, and my story also includes other people's stories that I've seen firsthand transform. And I'll share really quickly because it's just a beautiful thing to share. I was actually at a Joe Dispenza event, and have you ever been?
No, no,
Oh my God, we got to get you to
I
one.
know, I know. I have so many. I have a friend who's like studying with him who we're going to have as a medical director in our LA center, and is like, you
Oh
gotta
my
go,
God.
you gotta go. And I've just been
The
dragging my
most
feet.
like life-changing,
Yeah.
I've done a lot of cool
I
stuff,
heard
but
they're intense. Yeah.
well, you're like 40, 50 hours of meditating for a week. And then
Right.
also
Right.
like helping heal people, right? You're
Yeah.
understanding about electromagnetic fields and the energy you hold and how you can create that coherence for somebody. But so I was at one of these events. It was one of my first couple events I went to, and they have everybody standing, everyone's cheering and they're dancing. And it's super cool, right? It's like good energy. And I saw this kid sitting in front of me, like to the side, and he's sitting in a wheelchair. And I'm like, I just have this overwhelming thought of, I got to get him standing. Like, he's got to remember what's possible. And so I'm like looking around the room. I'm like, I need somebody big to help me lift this guy. And I'm not kidding you, Casper. It was like freaking casted audience out of nowhere. I just see this massive human being, massive, like 7 foot. Later found out he's an NBA player. I didn't know it at the time, but I'm like, this guy. And I'm running to him and I'm like, hey, I need your help. I need your help. And he's like, yeah, is everything okay? I'm like, yeah, come on, I need your help. He's like, what's up? I'm like, I need you to help me lift this guy out of his wheelchair. And he's like, do you work here? I'm like, no. And he's like, what? Like, this is like
Yeah.
what hanging out with me. So of course I ask him, his name is Andy. He's a friend of mine now. And I'm like, hey, any chance like you want to get up and like dance with us? And he was like, yeah, yeah, okay, yeah. 12 years, Andy was paralyzed. He was in a snowboarding accident. He didn't land the trick, broke his back. He was paralyzed. Doctors said he would never walk again. So he never tried.
Yeah.
Andy, of course, started to open his mind up to a possibility. He wouldn't be at an event like this, but so he was open. And so we get him standing. Casper is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, because as he gets up, it was like watching the life come back into him.
Mhm.
Because think about it, for 12 years, people are dancing. How many times do you think Andy just sat there?
Right.
But now he's up, he's with us, he's in the energy, his body is believing and remembering. And 3 days later, we watched Andy take his first steps in 12 years. I'll send you the video.
Yeah,
And
please.
now he does his walking meditations every day. He's 3D wise, he's not you and I yet, but he'll get there. And he bought a snowboard last year, and his
Oh,
mission is to go back and to land that trick, and he's committed. And it's like you see things like that, And you're like, I just got to, the whole world has to know about this.
Yeah.
I actually was hosting a Mind Valley event this year in February. It was a manifesting event. And I was like, look, you can manifest anything. Like, I know a lot of people show up and they're like, I want the car, I want the partner, and I want that. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm like, but leave yourself open. And there was a woman that was sitting there in the front row. And I kind of like really wanted to share this because she was in a wheelchair. And I was like, I just like, I just, my hardest thing is like understanding that every soul has their own journey and not to interfere. Because I want to just be like, you can do it. Like, you can do it. Everyone can do it. It's possible. But, each soul has their own journey and they have to come to their own level of consciousness and make a decision and do the work. And that's okay. And so I remember sharing this, and I was just at a huge event I was speaking at for Mind Valley University. And this guy comes up to me and he's like, hey, you were at the manifesting event. And I was like, yeah. He's like, you shared that story of your friend Andy. And I was like, yeah, I did. He's like, my wife and I were in the front row. She was in a wheelchair. And I was like, of course, I remember you. And he's like, she had a really hard time with that at first. Like, she was, kind of pissed. Like, what is this girl talking about? How would she even know what it feels like? I wound up having the conversation with her like shortly after, and she was telling me this as well. But then a part of her started to sit with herself and was like, why do I feel like this? 20 years she's been in a wheelchair. She started thinking about what doctors told her, how her dad reacted to things, like how these beliefs were formed. Anyways, long story short, she wound up like 2 days before me meeting them, she wound up doing her first steps underwater. And she's since sent me like 2 more videos. And they say, if you can begin to learn to walk underwater, you can do it on land. And my God, she's going to do it because she believes. And it's like, oh my God, that's the power of a story. That's a power of a story and a possibility. And so I just share that because the book is full of these incredible stories of just people overcoming, people doing the impossible. And so that's something that I'm working on right now. And then I'm launching this new community that will also be tied to the database of miracles. So people that are looking just to be in a community where either they can find people that have similar beliefs in them that believe, and then also people that want to contribute to that. So we're building out the whole platform right now, but I'm really excited to just bring people more positive stories, because you don't, unless you go to the Quran or the Bible or some of these books of wisdom, there's not a lot of people nowadays talking about what does go wrong in one designed place. So that's the goal, is just to bring more positivity, to empower more people, and to remind them of their own divinity and their own power inside of them.